What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Sayushi, and if you don't know, I covered quite a bit of content with Wayfinder. Eventually, I ended up stopping my playthrough of the game just because the end game was pretty lackluster. There's been a new development with what's going on with the game, but I did want to kind of talk about some of the stuff that happened with the title. So essentially, the publisher, which was DICE, ended up dropping them, and since then the game was no longer available in the Steam store because, frankly speaking, they couldn't legally sell it until they ended up removing all of the aspects and legality stuff around DICE being the publisher. As far as I've heard, the company themselves, Airship or whatever they're called, they didn't actually see most, if any, of the profits because their publisher probably invested a pretty decent sum. The advantage of them losing the publisher, though, is that means that they can basically go independent and start working on the project in the way that they want to, rather than what, you know, Big Daddy CEO is telling them to do. Now, that said, it is kind of a double-edged sword because it does mean that there is a risk that the game is going to either have slower development or just, generally speaking, they're not going to be as funded, right? So what I wanted to do today was focus on the latest update where they announced Wayfinder Echoes, and they kind of go over how they completely changed the game from what it originally was. So I'll have a link in the description for, you know, this post if you guys want to end up checking it out. But short answer is that the Echoes version of the game is going to be available for all of us that already purchased the game. We'll be able to access this May 30th, but for everybody else on Steam, you guys will be able to access the content June 11th. That's when the game is finally going to be available for purchase again. They've also confirmed that it's coming to Xbox, and I mean, let's just get into it because there's a lot to this. So they removed online requirements. So Wayfinder will be removing all online requirements and will be a single player game with optional 3-player co-op. No queues, no login, no accounts. You can choose to play solo on your Steam Deck while on the go, or engage in peer-to-peer co-op with friends from your home PC. Now, unfortunately, because this is such a big shift, they have confirmed that all progress will not be carried forward due to saves being local and not on the server, which basically means that we're going to be starting from scratch. My thoughts on the whole situation of it being an online co-op game: honestly, it fits a lot better. This game was never really designed as an MMO, or at least it wasn't designed to be a good MMO. Like, no offense to the game itself, but it just didn't really fit the bill. You know what I'm saying? So I think that this could actually be a really welcome change. Obviously, the big change with it is one price, no microtransactions. So they mentioned that the industry has shifted over recent years with more and more games coming out, all fighting for players' time and attention. Players have more time to play, or more games to play than ever, and they're being asked to log into multiple games to check their daily quests, look at store rotation, and be drip-fed content. Which is, it's kind of ironic that they're saying this because this is literally how Wayfinder was designed, but a lot of that seems to have been DICE's influence. So they say players today are more apt to outright purchase a game they know will have full content and also respectful of their time. In the Echoes update, we'll be charging a price of $24.99 US during early access, which will increase on full release. No in-game microtransactions or in-game purchases, just one price. Founders who have already purchased the game will have access and all exclusive items included in each pack. Our founders packs will not be going back on sale. For anyone that supported us by purchasing in-game rune silver, we've converted that rune silver into an in-game currency used to acquire exclusive cosmetics. Kind of weird that they're not very clear from my taste of just where the hell my money went. I do think it's a very welcome change, and as we can even see with the image, it seems like a lot of the cosmetic armors and so on and so forth are now just armor that you will unlock for your character that have various stats on them, which I think is great, because going for weapons in this game was kind of the only thing that you could actively grind outside of like characters and stuff. But for me personally, it's always more exciting if you're actually grinding for like new armor sets and other things. So I'm assuming that they just kind of are going to take all of the content that they originally were going to drip feed us, and now it's just been injected into the game as something that you can freely obtain. So that's more than welcome, and I think that players that get into the game now when Echoes starts aren't going to end up having any complaints. But for myself and everybody else that sank our real life money into this game, it's a bit concerning, and I'm curious to see where it goes. So they also mentioned major gameplay changes. So these aren't the only changes. We've touched nearly every major system in the game, and as a result, the gameplay is not only more refined, but through other various playtests with those outside the studio, the game performs and plays better than ever before. Optimization has always been a problem. Some of these changes include all weapons becoming randomized drops with various slots, armor now having stats and being collectible, thousands of cosmetics and housing items available to collect, the removal of the grind to get new characters, eased requirements for awakening characters, increased housing item limits, adding 4 difficulties to choose from, incorporating traditional RPG talents into your progression, and much more. This update also launches with the latest Wayfinder Grendel, as well as brand new hunts and new overlands zones to explore, 3 times the size of the first area, that's overflowing with content and points of interest. Now, to clarify, a lot of the content that they're advertising to us, the changes that they're making to the core systems, that's huge. That explains why they've been radio silent about the whole situation. But them advertising the new oversized land area that's essentially going to give us a mount, that's content that they already had developed. So I don't know. I'm just trying to be very clear and transparent with you guys in that this is not like, oh, this is a new map that they've been working on for months or anything. I'm not saying that they weren't working on it, but this was stuff that was all planned while DICE was still involved. And the only, like, I haven't really seen new content per se. It's just them reevaluating existing content. So it says, when can I play? Basically, Wayfinder Echoes will make the changes on May 31st. So basically, those of us that had the founder pack will be able to just get into the game early on the 31st. From that point forward, all online requirements tied to Steam, including all player data, will be removed, and the game will be available for anyone that currently owns any version of Wayfinder on Steam. Wayfinder will once again be available for purchase in early access June 11th for everybody else. These changes will come to PS5 later in the year and will keep players updated once we have a concrete timeline. PS4 support will be discontinued, with all PS4 versions being upgraded to the PS5 version at no additional cost, except for the people that don't have a PS5. Okay. Weird. In the meantime, PS4 and PS5 players can continue to access the game as normal. Relaunching in early access on a single platform allows us to be agile and make changes at a faster pace than before. We plan to leave early access later in 2024, but during that time, we'll be adding gameplay refinements based on feedback, a new Wayfinder, a new location to explore, probably the summoner character that we already saw like a year ago, new expanded housing, and more. We're also formally announcing that Wayfinder will be coming to Xbox Series X and S during early access, and will provide an update on timing later in the year. Now, what I'm curious about is this game still going to end up being crossplay? Because that was one of the things that was really appealing about it. You know, being able to play with my buddy that was on console. It sounds to me like the PC version is going to be completely separate. So they have the path ahead, which is a very, very small roadmap, essentially stating when the game's going to plan on release, its price point. The summer is going to be the Echoes update is live and game sales resume at $24.99. And then in the fall is when they're planning to have Wayfinder leave early access and have the price increased. They also have the logo for Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. So you can expect it to come out this year, which is pretty crazy and pretty fast turnover for 1.0. So I hope that they can do it. Now, at the moment, I'm cautiously optimistic because a lot of what they're advertising is, it's not necessarily new content per se. It's most of all just stuff that basically was sitting there waiting to drip feed to players, and now they're basically just giving it to all of us, which I do think is a good idea. And I think that if the game ends up being full price at maybe like 30 or 40 bucks, that would definitely make it a lot more approachable for most people. But again, I'm very curious to see if crossplay is going to end up being a thing, and more specifically, how they're going to handle our purchases. So for me, I didn't really buy that much in this game because I kind of read the writing on the wall and saw that it wasn't really, you know, clearly things were going very poorly with Wayfinder. And I would love to say that the game is going to be completely resurrected. But time will tell. We'll see what happens. I am still optimistic about the whole situation, and I would love to see Wayfinder actually reach its true full potential. But whether or not it's actually going to, I don't know. These are some huge fundamental changes, and I'm okay with them resetting our progress. But at the risk of sounding harsh, I hope that they've actually made the gameplay loop fun, because that was kind of the big problem that myself and a lot of people had with the game, is when you started getting to the end game, it just kind of got very, very repetitive. Now, being able to chase weapon drops, armor, and even grind characters in a much more organic way, I think that's actually a lot better than the whole live service thing, as we've already seen live service is just failing hard lately in the industry. So I think that they're doing the best option that they can to try and rectify and re-salvage this game. So fingers crossed it ends up turning into something special. I'll obviously cover the game again on the channel when this update ends up going live, so you guys can expect me to share my opinions on it when it goes out there. But otherwise, I still wish them the best. I hope Airship can just completely resurrect this game and turn it into what it always was, which was something very, very special. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I would appreciate if you smash like, subscribe for more. Obviously, we'll cover Wayfinder in the future, but if you want to watch more of my videos, YouTube thinks that this is a good option for you, or you could check out my most recent upload. I gotta sit here for a little bit while these video links don't go away. So how you doing?